Chapter 4. Only 2 weeks into school, and I've already failed 2 math quizzes. Failed with a bright purple capital F. The note from my teacher is burning a hole in my back pocket, and I know I should give it to my parents. Instead, I'm sitting at the kitchen table forcing myself to finish the rest of my homework. Zach is actually humming as he does his 6th grade long division. Beth claims she didn't have any homework and is outside gathering herbs in the moonlight. I can't remember ever seeing Beth in the woods before. She isn't the outdoorsy type, which is pretty pathetic considering our house is surrounded by fields and woods. Mango is on my lap, purring away as I pet him. I finish reading the 3rd chapter of Lord of the Flies, which, it turns out, is not about flies at all. I can't help yawning. Reading always makes me tired, because sometimes I get so caught up in the rainbow-like colors of the words that I have to read passages over and over. You really should cover your mouth when you yawn, Zach says. Why? We're not in public. He shrugs and resumes his homework. It's your soul, not mine. My soul? I ask. Since when do you know about souls? Oh, I know about souls, he says gravely. And I know that if you yawn and don't cover your mouth, your soul can jump out. I stare at him. Where did you hear that? The internet again? It's common knowledge, he says. You're as strange as they come, Zach. Thanks. It isn't a compliment, I assure him. It is to me, he says. I return to the sheet of math equations in front of me. After staring at the swirls of gray for 5 full minutes, I finally throw my pencil across the room in disgust. Mango jumps off my lap and chases half-heartedly after the pencil before lying down to wash himself. I am not a stupid person. I know I'm not. Why can't I figure out this basic math problem? Zach peers at me in surprise. Something wrong? He asks. At least, that's what I think he says. The frustration blots out everything, so that all I can focus on is this weird heaviness in my chest. The bubbling up inside me has gotten too strong. I can feel it rising to the surface. Bubble, bubble, simmer, fizz, and boom. So much for trying to be normal. That didn't last long. I push back my chair, ignore the rusty red scraping sound that reminds me of dried blood, and march into the living room. My parents are sitting together on the couch, trying to decide if they should be worried about Beth's new hobby. They stop talking when they see me. Okay. Deep breath. Here goes. Just blurt it out. I wish Grandpa were here. He would know exactly what to do. I have to tell you guys something. Once the words are out, I am unable to make my lips work again. They wait for me to continue, and I almost chicken out. But the boom is still ringing in my ears. I have no choice but to remind them of the one instant in my life I'd hoped everyone had forgotten. I take another deep breath. Remember in 3rd grade when you guys had to come to the principal's office to get me? They think for a few seconds. Then my father says, something about chalk? Right, I say. Chalk. And at that moment, I taste the chalk in my mouth, feel it tickling my throat. What about it? My mother asks. Well, remember I told everyone I made the whole thing up? Vaguely, she says. What's this all about, Mia? Well, the thing is, I begin, knowing there is no turning back now. I wasn't lying. Numbers really do have colors for me. So do letters and sounds. They are staring at me with that familiar Mia sprouted another head stare. but I keep talking. I bounce around the room as I speak. Each word lightens me a bit more. I used to think everyone saw these colors. Then, in 3rd grade, I figured out it was just me. My mind flashes to Billy for a second, but I don't want to confuse things even more. Not until I figure out what his story is. I thought I should tell you about it before I get 2 Fs on my report card. I dig into my pocket and hand my mom the crumpled note. You have to sign this. I plop down on the armchair across from them, waiting for their reaction as they read the note together. I don't have to wait too long. Is this whole story some kind of joke to justify your difficulty with math? Asks my mother with a frown. Because it wasn't funny in 3rd grade, and it isn't funny now. It isn't a joke, Mom, I reply, gritting my teeth. My father studies me for a minute. Do you mean to say you hallucinate? I shake my head. It's not like that. Hallucinating means you imagine you see things that aren't there, my father adds. I try not to lose my patience. I know what the word means, Dad, but I'm not imagining things. My colors are as real as this house. What kinds of colors are these, exactly? My mother asks. I can tell she's still not sure whether I'm lying. I try to think of the easiest way to describe it. Each letter and number has its own color, I explain. Like a K is turquoise blue, whether I think of it, read it, or hear it. It's just there, inside my head, plain as day. They continue to stare at me, and I begin to squirm. Sounds have colors too, I add, figuring there's no use holding anything back at this point. High-pitched sounds give the sharpest colors. When I hear a noise, I'll see the color and shape that go with... Shape? My father interrupts. Yes, shape, I say. The colors appear in geometric shapes, like spirals or balls or zigzags, that sort of thing. Or sometimes just a hazy patch of colored air. Does this block your vision? My mother asks hurriedly. Does it hurt? I shake my head at both questions. No, it's not like that, really. It's more, this is all your fault, my mother informs my father before I can finish my sentence. My fault? He jumps up from the couch. How are you blaming this on me? All those drugs in the 60s, she says accusingly. What drugs? He sputters. I never took drugs in the 60s. Well, neither did I, she says. I never said you did. This conversation has taken an unexpected turn, and my head is going back and forth like a ping-pong ball. Your brother used drugs, she says matter-of-factly, unwilling to give up this line of reasoning. What does that have to do with me, or Mia, he demands. Maybe you inhaled something and passed it on to her, she says. Or maybe this is your crazy Aunt Polly's fault, my father responds. Maybe Mia inherited something from her. My Aunt Polly isn't crazy, my mother says defensively. She's just a little eccentric. That has nothing to do with... I figured you'd think I'm crazy, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. They glare at each other, and then both their faces soften. We don't think you're crazy, Mia, my father says, sitting down again. We just don't understand. He reaches over and takes my hands in his. Do you remember when this started? It's always been there, I tell him, still stinging from their words. I bet I know what this is all about, my mother says excitedly. I bet it's those building blocks you used to play with. You know, the ones with the colored letters on them? Huh? I say. You probably memorized the colored letters when you were a baby, she says. And you've been associating colors with letters and numbers ever since. I think about that for a second, then shake my head. That can't be it, I say. That doesn't explain. I'll run down to the basement and get them, she says, ignoring me. I'm sure they're still in the old toy chest. She's off and running before I can stop her. My father and I just look at each other. Time passes very slowly until she returns. Cradling a few dusty blocks in her arms, she holds one up in front of me. It has the letter Q carved on each side in faded red. What color is this? She asks. It's red, I tell her. See, she says gleefully. I'm right. The Q is red, I repeat, on the block. But in my head, it's a dark silver, like the color of Dad's helicopter. My mother doesn't say anything. She just keeps turning the block over and over in her hand. Well, my father says after a long pause, we'll just have to go see Dr. Randolph. I'm sure he'll be able to help. Over the years, Dr. Randolph has cured us kids of everything from chickenpox to broken bones. He means well, but he's getting old and a little forgetful. For the last few years, he's called me Beth. I even heard him call Zach Beth once, but Zach denies it. Dad, the last time we went to Dr. Randolph, you said he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed anymore. Never mind that, he says. We have to start somewhere. I'll call him right now. He goes into the kitchen and opens the cabinet with the emergency numbers posted on it. Mom is still staring at the block, as if she's trying to see what I see. I know how frustrating it is to see something differently from someone else, or in my case, everyone else, and I feel sorry for her. I have to go give Mango his pill, so I stand up to leave. Mom breaks her gaze away from the block and looks at me solemnly. Why didn't you come to us before? She asks. She sounds hurt. My throat tightens. I tried to. Back in 3rd grade. No one believed me, remember? I'm glad you're telling us now, she says, reaching out to hug me. It feels good. Mom's not usually the touchy-feely type. We'll find out what's going on, she assures me. Don't worry. I nod and leave her holding the cue up to the light. Mango is asleep on my bed, wheezing his mango wheeze contentedly. He springs up as soon as I open the box of tuna-flavored cat treats. Without my colors, Mango's wheezes would just be wheezes with no comforting mango puffs. Is that worth giving up for good grades? I guess I have no choice. After all, everyone else manages just fine without seeing them. He gobbles down the treat, never suspecting a pill is hidden inside it. He's so trusting. I give him a few more treats without pills in them, and then he yawns in my face, and I wave away his icky tuna breath. That night, I go to bed early and dream that Dr. Randolph has turned Mango into a stack of dusty building blocks. Every time I pile them up, someone comes and knocks them back down. I can never turn around fast enough to see who it is.